helps me with releasing that pelvic floor, releasing the tissue in the front and the back of the body. This also helps release the low back, the hips, all of the fun stuff. So I like to sit on the ball for probably about like 3 to 4 minutes, just enough to really relax into the ball and help the tissue to release. So if you want to, you can go ahead and close your eyes. And I want you to just think, you're going to take a nice deep inhale in, and then exhale all the air out. And don't force the breath. Don't focus on trying to breathe into any sort of area in the body. Just really focus on relaxing and trying to release any tension you might be holding in your body today. So go ahead, take another deep inhale in and exhale. And we'll do 2 more breaths. Take a nice deep inhale in and exhale. Last breath in, we're going to take a nice deep inhale through the nose. And exhale all the air out. And then you can slowly just open the legs out into a V. And we're going to do a little bit of rocking now. So I want you just to go ahead, kind of lean over into that left side. This is my sticky side. So technically that left feels a little bit of restriction. Lean into the right. And we're going to go kind of back and forth. Opposite, alternating sides. And let's do one more, just kind of releasing a little bit of a stretch in the back of the body. And then you can sit here and kind of rock side to side. Focus on, again, just trying to release a little bit as you take a nice deep inhale in. Exhale all the air out. And then we're going to now go into that left sit bone area. So I like to release this left leg out and just bring that right leg in. We're going to do little circles around that sit bone. So we're just going to, again, focus on slow, intentional movements as we're going around that sit bone. So we're essentially getting part of the hamstrings, we're getting part of that pelvic floor, kind of just releasing, again, the bottom of the pelvis. And then go ahead, now we're going to switch to the other side. So we're going to lengthen that right leg out. Again, we're just doing little bitty circles, slow and controlled movement around that sit bone. So I tend to do this before any breath work because I like to release the body and create a little more mobility and a little more space before I start really focusing on reconnecting and realigning things in the body before we then go into that core strengthening stuff. Okay, so then I like to focus on then the side of the body. So we're going to turn onto one side. You're going to put the ball underneath your rib cage right above that hip bone. And then you can actually lay all the way down. If you want to bring the knees in, you can. You can keep the legs a little bit straight, bring them a little bit more in front of you. We're not trying to activate the core on this. We're trying to release into this ball. So I tend to just think of like that little side fetal position. And then go ahead, we're going to again focus on that breathing. So take a nice deep inhale in. Exhale all the air out. And let's do 4 more. Take a nice deep inhale in. And exhale all the air out. And again, we're just trying to relax and breathe into the ball, allowing the tissue just to get rehydrated and get a little bit more mobility. Let's do 1 more breath. You're going to pop up, bring that ball now around that rib cage area. Again, lower that head down. You're just relaxing, releasing into this ball. You can always bring your hand on top of this rib cage. Again, just thinking of inhaling to expand. And then exhale, relax and bring everything in. So in here, I do like to direct the breath a little bit more into that top rib cage. And then as I exhale, I notice how that umbrella around the rib cage wants to come down and in. Let's do 2 more. And then last one. And then you're going to come up. We're going to bring that ball now underneath that armpit. So again, this is where I like to release the serratus anterior, which is the back of the armpit muscle. This also helps release the tissue underneath the armpit. It's where some of our lymph nodes are. So I typically will lay here for a little bit and then I will add a little bit of rocking. So I even will kind of shift a little bit back into that serratus, kind of come and roll a little bit forward. So just notice wherever you have tightness or stickiness or tension, that's where you want to kind of focus on. So for me, a lot of the times it's that back of the armpit area that I really have to give a little bit more love, so that way I can focus on releasing that area. So the serratus anterior intertwines with our obliques, and so a lot of times it can throw off alignment in the core from just that tightness tugging up on those obliques. And so just kind of rolling a little bit side to side, or just focusing on breathing into that movement. Now, I love to do a thoracic little roll or release. So I like to put the ball in between my shoulder blades, right above, kind of like where your bra strap would lie, or right in between the tips of your shoulder blades. And so you're going to bring your hands behind your head to support that neck. Elbows are going to be nice and wide and just relaxed. And then as you inhale, I want you to go ahead and extend over that ball. And again, this might be a little uncomfortable for some. So if you feel like you can't rest your head on the ground comfortably, then roll up a towel or put a pillow under there, anything to help you get comfortable. You can do a yoga block even. So just we want to focus on getting that release and being able to relax in the body, so that way that the tissue will release. So if we're holding on to tension, that tissue won't have the ability to release, which is what we're really going for with all of the release work. So again, just take a nice deep breath in, focusing on that breath. Exhale all the air out. Let's do 2 more. And exhale. And then last one, take a nice deep inhale in. And exhale. And then I want you to go ahead and lift the head up about halfway. We're going to side bend over to the right, really lengthening that left. And then come back through the center and side bend over to the left. Really lengthening and getting a good stretch in the right side. And then we're going to do that 2 more times. So think inhaling into that left side as you're side bending to the right. Exhale through the center, inhale through the right rib cage as you side bend to the left, getting a really good stretch. We're going to do 1 more. And then come back to that center position, lower the head down and see if you have a greater range of motion. You can even release the arms, letting them hang a little bit heavy, rock side to side a little bit, but just notice if you do have a greater range of motion since we've decongested the tissue between the shoulder blades. So then the next one I love to do is then lift your head up. We're going to lift the hips up off the floor and be mindful of any hair, necklaces, shirts, but we're going to roll towards the shoulder blades and then roll down the length of the spine towards the bottom of that rib cage. So you're going to inhale as you roll up, exhale as you roll down. And let's do 3 more, going nice and slow and controlled. Really focusing again on trying to relax into that ball. And then let's do 1 more. Inhale as you roll up. And exhale as you roll down. And then you can come all the way back up. Okay, so then we're going to do the other side. So you'll put that ball again above that hip bone, below that rib cage. And then you can bend your knees. You can keep your legs out straight. If your legs are out straight, make sure you bring them slightly in front of you. But again, we're just trying to relax into this ball. So I always like to take kind of inventory of one side versus the other. So whenever I'm on one side, I like to think, okay, is this side stickier than the other? Is this side a little bit more tighter? Do I feel stuck anywhere? We typically will have different feelings or different tensions in one side versus the other. So it just is that awareness of, okay, what is happening on one side versus the other of the body? And then what can I do to help either release it more or activate it more or things like that? So my left side is typically a little bit tighter than my right side. So for me, I always like to linger and release a little bit more. I might even add a little more of that movement to get a little more friction in the tissue as I kind of rock a little forward, rock a little bit back. If at any time you feel spots that are tight or tender or sticky, those are the spots we want you to kind of just hold there. Maybe relax into the ball a little bit more. Take a couple breaths. Try to see if that releases the tissue. And then you can add in a little more rocking. So then we'll come up. We're going to then bring that to that rib cage. You're going to lay back down. You can bring this hand now on top of that rib cage, on the top rib cage. And then again, take a nice deep inhale into the rib cage. And exhale. Let's do 3 more breaths. Take a nice deep inhale in. And exhale. 2 more. And exhale. Last time, take a nice deep inhale into that rib cage. And exhale. Then you're going to slowly lift up. Put that ball now underneath that armpit. And again, just focus on relaxing into the ball. Kind of bring your awareness to your breath. And then whenever you're ready, you can start kind of rolling a little bit forward, rolling a little bit backward to get the back of the armpit, and focusing on just any area you might feel that tightness or tenderness. And let's do 2 more breaths. Take a nice deep inhale in. Exhale. Take another deep inhale in. Okay, so then the last one that I like to do for core specific is coming onto your belly. You're going to put the ball now right at that sternum. So right where the ribcage kind of V's. And then you can either stay on your forearms or bring your head to be on top of the back of your hands. And so again, we're going to just focus on taking a nice deep inhale in. Exhale all the air out. And let's do 3 more breaths here. Take another deep breath in. And exhale. And on this, I want you to notice how directing the breath into the back of the rib cage really helps with that ball, like having that pressure there. And so a lot of times we're stuck in our back body. We tend to be really front body breathers, breathing into our, clavicle area or into our collarbone area or even into the chest more so. And so by expanding in the back of the body and the sides of the body, that allows the rib cage to truly expand 360 around that body. And then also allowing our lungs to have space to fill up. So again, just focus on breathing into the ball. This one could be a little uncomfortable, but it is super beneficial to have the front of the body, especially right here, to be nice and mobile, because a lot of times we can get stuck and that diaphragm doesn't have the capability to really push down into that abdominal cavity area. So the next part that I like to do is breath work. And so with this, there's a couple options. We're going to do 2 different types of breathing today. The first one, we're going to focus on doing a 3-part breathing sequence. And this one I like to do, especially if you have a diastasis recti, pelvic floor dysfunction, or just in general, you're having a hard time connecting to your deep core. And so we're going to keep the foam roller off to the side. You can also have a yoga block or a pillow or anything that will lift the hips up at some point, but we're going to start flat on our back first. So you're going to lay on your back. Knees are going to be nice and bent. Your feet are going to be on the ground. You're going to have your hands next to your hips. And then I want you just to go ahead and just close your eyes. And I'm going to direct your breath. And what we're going to do is we're going to really start breaking up the core into 3 different areas. So starting out, we're going to take a nice deep inhale into the sit bones. The sit bones are at the bottom of the pelvis. So if you even want to bring your hands and put your hands on the sit bones, that works too, just so that way you can kind of feel if there's any kind of activation. But we're going to go ahead and just take a nice deep inhale into the sit bones. Exhale all the air out. And at the end of the sit bones, or at the end of the exhale, think of bringing the sit bones together. Let's do that 3 more times. Take a nice deep inhale into the sit bones. Exhale all the air out. And at the end of this exhale, think of bringing the sit bones together. Let's do 2 more. Take a nice deep inhale in. Exhale all the air out. And at the end of the exhale, think of bringing those sit bones together. Last one, take a nice deep inhale in. Exhale all the air out. And at the end of the exhale, think of bringing those sit bones together. So now we're going to focus on the hip bones, so right in the front of the hips. So these 2 hip bones that are below the belly button. We're going to take a nice deep inhale into the hip bones. Exhale all the air out. And at the end of the exhale, think of bringing the hip bones together. I also like to visualize you're tightening a seatbelt on a plane across your lap. So that's also the activation that you can kind of visualize feeling right there. So let's do 3 more. Take a nice deep inhale into the hip bones. Exhale all the air out. And at the end of the exhale, think of bringing the hip bones together. And let's do 2 more. Exhale. And then think of bringing the hip bones together. Last one. And exhale. And bringing the hip bones together. Okay, so then we're gonna switch to the rib cage. So on this one, you can always bring your hands here around the rib cage if that helps, just to have that tactile feedback. So go ahead, we're gonna take a nice deep inhale into the rib cage. Exhale all the air out. And then think of bringing that small circle in the rib cage together. So the other visual that I like to use for this is as you inhale, you're inhaling, opening up an umbrella. Exhale all the air out and relax. And at the end of the exhale, you're bringing that umbrella in. So think of that small circle on the rib cage kind of comes down and in. So let's do 2 more. And last one, inhale in and exhale. Okay, so now we're going to tie all 3 together. So I want you to think as you inhale, you're going to inhale into sit bones, hip bones, then the rib cage. As you exhale, you're going to relax. And at the end of the exhale, think sit bones, hip bones, rib cage. So what we're trying to facilitate is that bottom up breathing and also activating the core in 3 different sections. So go ahead, take a nice deep inhale in. Exhale. And think of sit bones, hip bones, small circle on the rib cage together. So again, it's sit bones, then the hip bones, then the rib cage. So let's do 3 more. Exhale. Sit bones, hip bones, rib cage. And then let's do 2 more. And exhale. Sit bones, hip bones, rib cage. And then last one. Sit bones, hip bones, and rib cage. So I want you to really focus on whenever we do that breathing, we're going to inhale into the sit bones, inhale into the hip bones, inhale into the rib cage, collarbone, armpits, back. A lot of times whenever we facilitate that breath work, it's really hard to then get the breath into that rib cage. So you can even sniff a little bit just to get a little bit deeper. And over time, you'll notice you'll be able to expand a lot more. And then also activating the 3 different parts. So now we're going to add in a little bit of our hips elevated. So we're going to lay back down and you're going to bring now that foam roller, yoga block, pillow, whatever it is that you are going to prop your hips up on. And then we're going to bring our legs in a tabletop position. Okay, so on this one, we're going to go ahead, bring the arms up towards the ceiling. And then I want you to notice, you're going to take a nice deep inhale in, exhale, and then I want you to activate that low belly. So you're going to tilt that pelvis slightly. It is a very, very, very slight posterior tilt. So we're here in more of that neutral position. We're going to tuck it just slightly. And now I feel this low belly engaged. So arms are going to be lifted up towards the ceiling. We're going to now focus on that back body breathing. So this is kind of fired on or activated. We're going to inhale as we lower the arms back behind us. And then as you exhale, you're going to pull them back up. So we're incorporating the lats and the serratus anterior now into that breathing sequence. This is activated and turned on. So we're going to be strengthening down here as we're expanding in the back. So again, inhale in and exhale. Trying to keep that rib cage down and melted towards the mat. And let's do 4 more. And 3. 2 more. And last one. Okay, so then we're going to go into now the activation and the restoring side, or the strengthening side of our core series. So to start out, I like to start with TA activation. So we're going to bring our palms onto our knees, and we're going to then take a nice deep inhale in. As you exhale, let that rib cage melt down and in, and we're going to then push knees into palms and palms into knees. So you should feel that all around engagement. That's our transverse abdominals. So that's the abdominals, our corset muscle that is nice and activating. So then again, inhale, release, exhale, and then go ahead and push. Let's do 3 more. Inhale, release, exhale, and push. 2 more. Exhale and push. And then last time. And exhale and push. Okay, so then we're going to go into dead bugs. And so you might want to grab a hold of a dumbbell if you need a little bit more of a core challenge. If not, I would omit the dumbbell. So again, we're going to bring those legs into tabletop position. We have just a slight tuck just to activate this low belly. We're going to have the dumbbell into our right hand. We're going to bring this left hand to that left knee. So we're going to keep this nice and engaged with that TA activation. And so now you're going to inhale, lengthen right arm and right leg. Exhale, pull it in. Inhale, lengthen. Exhale, pull it in. We're still keeping that left hand and knee nice and pressed in towards each other. And let's do 5 more. And 4. 3 more. And 2. Last one. Let's go ahead and switch to the other side. So right hand and knee are pressed into each other. We're going to lengthen through the left side. So inhale in. Exhale, pull it in. Inhale. And lengthen out. And pull it in on your exhale, still keeping that right side nice and engaged. Let's do 4 more. And 3. 2 more. And last one. Okay, so then we're going to bring the dumbbell into both hands. We're going to keep the legs nice and knitted together, and we're going to do little like toe taps. So we're going to keep those shoulder blades nice and connected to the mat. I want you to think you're melting the back of the ribs towards the mat as well. And with this, we're going to just slightly lower this back behind us. So it's almost like we're at a diagonal. So we're going to focus on the legs first. So you're going to inhale as you lower, exhale, pull it in. Inhale as you lower, exhale, pull it in. So the goal is to hold on to that stability in the trunk of the body. So the goal isn't range of motion here necessarily. It's to keep this rib cage nice and melted, connected to the pelvis as we're moving the legs. So we're inhaling into the back and exhale as you pull in. Inhale in. Let's do 3 more. And 2. Last one. And then go ahead and release. So we're going to just do one more here. We're going to lengthen the legs up towards the ceiling, and then I want you to externally rotate them open. So think of bringing the heels together, toes apart. Again, we're going to keep the dumbbell in our hand just for resistance. So we're going to slightly lower it back. This also creates length in the side of the body to allow us to breathe into that side. So now again, you're going to inhale as you lower. Exhale as you pull up. Inhale. Exhale. Okay, so you can stay there, or we're going to add the arms. So we're going to inhale as we lower. Exhale as we pull up. Still breathing into the back of the body. Let's do 4 more. And 3. 2 more. Last one. And then go ahead and release. We're going to set the dumbbell off to the side and then come all the way up. Okay, so the next one that we're going to do, we're going to come into a 4-point kneeling position. So on this one, I want you to focus on really thinking about that breath work. So really trying to keep utilizing the breath work to do the movement. So we're going to use the foam roller again in just a moment. But to start out, I want to focus on, one, getting that breath work and that TA activation. So that way, anytime you're in this 4-point kneeling position or in a plank position, you understand like how to really hold on to the front of the body. So again, we're going to take a nice deep inhale in. Let that belly relax towards the mat. And then you're going to exhale. Think of bringing that belly in. So I like to cue this, especially for postpartum women. Think about you're trying to hug the belly in. For prenatal women, this is awesome for you to do to strengthen your TAs. So on the cueing on that, I always like to say hug your baby in or hug the belly in. So again, we want to just focus on relaxing the belly down, expanding into that rib cage. And as you exhale, think belly and rib cage. So you can start incorporating that bottom up breathing here as well. So again, we're going to take a nice deep inhale in. Exhale. So think belly, then the rib cage softens and comes down. Let's do 2 more. And exhale. Last one. And exhale. Okay, we're going to curl those back toes under. We're going to add a little bit of a challenge here. So if you want to stay there, I would stay with that engagement, just inhaling in, activating that belly by hugging the belly in, then the rib cage. But if you want to add a challenge, we're going to start lifting and hovering the knees. So here, we're going to take a nice deep inhale in. Exhale. Lift and hover. And then inhale as you lower. Exhale. Lift and hover. And then let's do 2 more. Exhale. Lift and hover. Last one, we're going to hold that hover. And exhale. lift and hover. Now hold it here. And we're going to now inhale into the back of the rib cage. Let's do 3 more breaths. Keeping that low belly nice and engaged. Last one. Go ahead and lower the knees. If you want to kind of sit back in a child's pose, release the lats and the shoulders and that chest. Okay, so we're going to do one more. We're going to now bring that roller in between the inner thighs. And so we're going to add some pelvis movement or shifting to this. So this now incorporates the pelvis movement into our core stability and control. So we're going to do the same thing where you're going to take a nice deep inhale in. You're going to exhale, low belly, rib cage comes down and in. We're going to lift and hover. And so now you're going to drop that right knee towards the mat, roll through, drop the left knee. Breathing into the back of the shoulder blades. Keeping the core nice and engaged. Let's do 2 more on each side. And last one. And then go ahead and lower down. So those are incredibly effective for pelvic floor strengthening. It engages those inner thighs. That then deepens that core connection and that pelvic floor connection. That the whole body is working on that one. So I love to incorporate that, especially into my pelvic floor work. So much better than doing Kegels. There is one more that I like to do that is for obliques, and it's the side of the body. Now, the dead bugs are really good for obliques, especially whenever you do some cross-body activation with that. But there is one that I like to do. We're going to use this ball, but if you have a Pilates ball or anything that you can kind of press into, that works too. So you're going to lengthen the legs out. You're going to rest your head on your shoulder, and then the ball is going to be in front of your chest, and you're going to have your palm on the ball. So we're going to go ahead, take a nice deep inhale in. We're lengthened through the body, so I'm not dumping into that bottom waistline. I'm really nice and long. And then as you exhale, you're going to push into this ball. You'll notice this all activates. So we'll do 2 more, and then we're going to add a little bit of a challenge to that. So take a nice deep inhale in. Exhale. And one more. Exhale. Okay, so you can stay there, or if you want a little challenge, you're going to take a nice deep inhale in. Exhale, lift the legs as you push down into that ball. Lower as you inhale. Exhale. And inhale in. Exhale. And let's do 2 more. Last one. Awesome. Okay, so we're going to switch to the other side. Again, you'll notice one side might feel a little different from the other, and that is totally okay. So we're going to, again, be nice and long and lengthened. You're going to now have your hand on the ball in front of your chest, and you're going to take another deep inhale in, and exhale, push into that ball. Let's do 2 more. Inhale, relax. Exhale, push in. Last one. And exhale, push in. So you could stay there. Let's add those leg lifts. And exhale, lifting those legs. Go within your own range of motion. Inhale in. Exhale. Last time, inhale in. And we'll do maybe one more. Take a nice deep inhale in. And then go ahead and relax. Okay, so there is one more that I do like to do just as a little bonus. This one incorporates some rotation in the rib cage and in those obliques. So we'll only do a little bit. If you want to grab a hold of your dumbbell, you can. But you're going to need either the foam roller or a yoga block or a ball, anything, or a pillow, anything that you could put in between those legs. And then we're going to lift this arm up towards the ceiling. Now, you can have your arm in front of you like this. This might be a little uncomfortable, so if you need to rest your head on something, you can, or you can lengthen your arm out. But we're trying to, again, only facilitate rotation in the rib cage. So as you inhale, you're going to then open up the chest, dropping this right shoulder or this dumbbell arm shoulder towards the mat behind you. As you exhale, push up back towards the ceiling and in that starting position. So try to keep the hips nice and stacked and stable. So you're only rotating as much as you can without shifting completely in that body. So inhale down. Exhale as you push up. Inhale down. Exhale as you push up. And let's do 3 more. And 2. Last one. And then we'll switch to the other side. So this is always where it's super fun to see how each side plays a role in that rotation. So again, we have our legs nice and stacked. The dumbbell is in our top hand, and we're going to take a nice deep inhale in and exhale. And this is the side that I'm like super sticky on. So my range of motion is not as easy or as greater or as great as the other side. And let's do 4 more. And 3. 2 more. All of the core work that I like to do in a certain format. And so I like to release the body and then realign it or reconnect to it through the breath, and then restore it through those functional moves, tying that breath into all of the movement that we do. So I hope you enjoyed this little class. And if you ever have any questions, feel free to let us know. And I hope that you have a beautiful and blessed day. Thank you so much. Bye.